Welcome one and all to this webinar, and this is all part and parcel of the ITA online platform, www.bitacommunity.org. Today we are joined by Simply Workflow, and it's a great correlation in terms of an example of an Irish company who has a great ability, great product, and a great team behind them. We intend to go through the journey of all that today, but we want to show as an example for a BITA member who's joined the organization and can utilize the organization in the best format to enter into a market like the UK and further afield. So today we were joined by Brendan Dowling. Brendan is the chairman of the organization. He's a tech entrepreneur and has a great history in that. So welcome. We're also joined by Mick Kelly, who's the co-founder and CEO of Simply Workflow. And we're joined also by Alan Shelley, who's the Professional Services Manager of the organization. Before we start, I just want to kind of explain for those who don't know much about the organization and have joined us today, what exactly BITA is and what we do. We are people who know people that help people. We're an organization that was set up 8 years ago to assist Irish companies in particular at the time into the entry into the UK market. But subsequently, the ITA has grown largely, and we are now 8 chapters strong in Scotland, Liverpool, Manchester, London, Leeds, Isle of Man, Dublin, and Cork. So Simply Workflow is a great example of an organization who contacted us, became members, and utilized BITA to actually show and showcase what they've done for the marketplace. So today, I'd like to introduce you firstly to Mick to tell us more about the company and their journey.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you very much, everybody, for joining. I just want to say thanks to Paul and Diane and the team at BITA for giving us this opportunity. And I also want to compliment them on the work they do and how they bring companies and give companies like ourselves a chance to get to a wider audience. And the work they do between Ireland and the UK, it's brilliant work. So first of all, I'll start off, as Paul said, I'm co-founder and CEO, and I'll give you a little bit of a background as to where Simply Workflow came from. My background's in the telecoms industry, and in 1995, having returned from about 10 years working in the telecoms business in the UK, I set up a company called ICL in 1995, and starting off with just one van on the road. Within 10 years, I found myself with about 170 vehicles on the road and 300 employees. So over the course of that journey, we had relied mainly on paper-based systems and Excel spreadsheets. So we knew that we needed to embrace technology, which was really starting to come into its own for field service management at the time. It was certainly in its infancy, but mobile phones were coming out, etc. So we knew we had to do something we really had pain. We had operational issues trying to manage all that paperwork, manage all the stock, manage the health and safety. Health and safety has always been a core function within Simply Workflow. So we developed an in-house system which worked for our stock and inventory, our health and safety, our jobs and engineers management, and our main client at the time, which was UPC, which is now Virgin Media, embraced the system, loved what it could do for their operations, and it became an integral part of that operation. So around 2012, we decided that we should, or we could, commercialize the business, which we did. So we commercialized it with a suite of modules, and again, from stock and inventory management, job and engineer scheduling, and also health and safety. So we realized that utilizing technology could help both utility companies and utility contractors streamline their operations. So we were chatting to Paul, and we were thinking then, okay, everybody's gone through a rough patch these last 3 months. Is there anything that we could do within our own system? And we looked at, as part of our health and safety module, we said, yeah, we could actually help here and help companies. So I'm going to just move you on to Alan now, who's going to take you through some of the modules in the system and some of the functionality. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mick. Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to go through some of the features and modules that are available within our standard offering. So I'm going to go through our system modules slide, just to give you a feel of what the system can provide. So we offer a health and safety and compliance as part of our risk assessment and certification piece of the system. We cover a full end-to-end stock and asset management, job and case management or complaint management. We manage the vehicles and fleet. We also, the core of our system is based around our scheduling and auto scheduling and routing tool for the engineers in the field. We also offer a quality control view of the system to manage the guys in the field. We have capacity management, which is used for appointment booking, and then we have our civils and surveying module, which is more geared towards a network build kind of industry or world. So I'm now going to move on to our solution itself and the benefits that our solution can provide. Obviously, it's real time and paperless. We can enforce 100% health and safety compliance on the system by implementing the workflow. Also on the compliance itself, on the mandatory data, photos before and after jobs. The 99.9% stock reconciliation. Because data is real time as well, we can reduce significantly the billing cycle. And also because of the paperless environment and the real access of engineers in the field to the data, we can increase productivity by 30%. I'm now going to move on to a case study based on a client, a telecoms client. So every step I'm going through here is part of the system, is implemented within our core system. So for example, when the engineer starts the job or the job is initiated in the system, the appointment is made with the client. So this is a call center function. Once that job appointment is booked, we then schedule that job for a specific date. And by doing that, we check on our engineers' availability and the areas. Once the job is booked in, we then dispatch the stock required for that job to the engineer from the warehouse. So that's using our full end-to-end warehouse facility. And once that we have everything in place, we can configure SMS or text messages that could be sent out to the customer at various stages of the job lifecycle, advising them or reminding them that an appointment has been booked, and we'll let them know when an engineer is due to arrive. And once we have all of this in place, once the engineer arrives on site, we can then capture the data required for that job, and once it's submitted by the engineer, we can see it in back office in a real time view once it's submitted. So I'm going to go through that job scenario in the system in just a moment. I'm just going to move on to a case study that was carried out by one of our larger customers in 2019. So by implementing the process I went through at a high level above, we found that on feedback from the customer that there were significant gains to be made and benefits and improvements to efficiencies. So if we look at the sections here, we can see that the cost per job reduced significantly from $11 to $6. That's mainly due to the stock management process that was implemented. Because of the paperless environment, we can see the productivity per crew increased from 3 to 4.5 jobs per day. And then taking all of this into account, all of the real-time information that's available, the monthly hours were reduced significantly by 89%. So the effort in back office is reduced significantly because of the real-time data that's submitted by the engineers in the fields. And to support all of this, the seamless process and the automation, we as part of this contract, we integrated with various systems to enhance the, I suppose, the flow of data from CRM into our system and then back to the ERP system. So that's a very high-level view of the case study that was carried out. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to move over to our system itself, just to show you how easy it is to get a job from the back office into the field. So I'm going to be using a mix of the back office system and the actual app itself. So here I'm in the back office system of Simply Workflow, and I can see a list of jobs that are to be carried out. So if I go into the actual job itself, I'll see that we have the job details. So I use our company address here. And we can also see if I go into the address or the location, that job is now pinned and is available for the engineer in the field as well. So the engineer will have this view of the location of the job as well in the field. And then you can see that I have the job assigned to a test engineer. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to, because I can show you that we have the job set up in the back office, and I'm now going to move across to the mobile view. So I'm going to use an app emulator to show you on the screen. So this is the actual view of that the engineers will have in the field. So I'm going to process this job as an engineer would. So I'm going to go into my jobs. Now I see a number of jobs there, past and present jobs. So I'm going to go into a job I have assigned for today. So I just click on the green arrow into the job. I will then go into start a job. But before I start the actual job, you'll see that I'm forced into a risk assessment or JSSP form. Now you can see it's captured my my geolocation as well, so we can configure a geolocation stamp when an engineer starts a job. So I have a number of sections here that need to be filled out before I can proceed with the job. First section is COVID-19 related, which is very important nowadays. And then we have our standard crew safety. So the standard questions that you can ask the guys in the field, like these are questions that are configured by the client themselves. So do you feel unwell in any way? So I'm just going to check a few boxes there, and then we can ask the engineer to sign off on this. I will then move on to my next section, which is the actual safety check itself regarding PPE and other areas or other data capture requirements that I need for the JSSP to carry out the job. And then I also can, we have numerous features as well. We can capture device location on the job. We can capture a photo, which I'm going to do now. Let's take a photo of my mouse. And then I can capture a signature again, the actual engineer signing off on the JSSP. So once I have this job, so I hit the submit button, now I'm in a position to start a job. Now, in some cases, the engineer may answer certain questions that he cannot proceed with the job. So we can capture that as well. So we can set up a fail codes or abort codes. So I say, yeah, I cannot proceed with the job for various reasons. And one of those reasons could be very valid nowadays is risk of COVID-19 infection. So I'm going to select that task. Now that job has been failed. So I'm just going to sync our data. So I'm going to upload photos. Now I'm going to sync data so that everything is uploaded to the server. Just to note a very important point as well, that there's an offline mode to this. That's why we have the sync function. So if the engineers are in a bad connectivity area, they can still carry out their work as normal. So I'm just going to move very quickly to the back office to show you what has happened on that job and the data that's readily available. Now we see the job status has changed to failed. And you can see the form that was filled out and all the questions and answers to that form, and the photo that was taken, and the sign off. And then we can see why this job has failed as well by selecting tasks selected, and it was a fail code, and it was a risk of COVID-19 infection. So all that information is readily available once the engineers in the field submit that data. So now that's the very high level view of our job process. So I'm going to hand over to Brendan now to give his idea and views on technology going forward.
Hi everyone. So I'm just going to give an overview of field service management technology and the development of technology in the industry generally. I suppose we all have learned in the last number of months and weeks, COVID-19 forced all of us to embrace technology like we're doing here today in terms of having this webinar using Zoom. But technologies that have been around for many years, such as video conferencing, remote working, mobile phones, etc. These technologies have been around for many years. They're well tried and tested, but I suppose it takes something like COVID-19 to force our change of behaviors. So many of us were forced into remote working, forced into using video conferencing, etc., etc. Field service management is a little bit the same. Traditionally, a lot of the field service management processes have been quite manual. People working out in the field are managing stock, managing jobs, managing health and safety. And to a large degree, there's still, we find with early stage engagements with new customers, there's still a lot of Excel spreadsheets, there's still a lot of paperwork, and there's still a lot of manual processes being adopted in the field. I think with everything that has happened now, I think there's a huge realization that technology can play a vital and critical role in both increasing customer satisfaction, which is a key driver of this. So response times can be substantially improved for your customers. The health and safety of your employees, which has now become a paramount for every company out there, can really be monitored and checked, and you can absolutely make sure that they followed a procedure and that procedure happened at a specific location, photographs, evidence, signatures, etc. that have been taken to prove that it has happened. And equally then in terms of back office, because it's real time, the amount of data and information that's available to manage jobs and to manage your workforce and stock in the field, as Alan has referred to, is substantially increased. So what I'm going to do here is just talk a little bit more beyond field service management. I'm just going to assume that people are adopting field service management software, which is operated as a software as a service in the cloud, and just look at the new technologies that are out there today that are now pretty well established, but when leveraged with field service management, give us huge opportunities to drive both operational efficiencies and competitive advantage in this very difficult industry. So just as examples, and I'll talk more specifically to each of them and give you little case studies, lots of different things like drone technology has really come into its own today. Virtual reality has now become a reality and is readily available. The Internet of Things that everybody has heard lots about at this point in time. Mobile data and mobile connectivity is now really good, and most countries are very well covered with good data coverage, which means that machines can talk back to networks and lots of things that we can do with that. And then we have lots of new business models that are starting to emerge, like the gig economy, which I'll talk about as well. So just to give you some examples of what we're talking about, in particular, if you read any research that's available in the market today on field service management, Gartner and all the other research agencies, there's a huge growth in this sector now, particularly coming out of the United States, and where most big organizations that have field staff and stock are realizing that they cannot do it anymore without a technology like Simply Workflow. So the field service management industry in itself is growing rapidly. But with it is rapid adoption of new technologies that are being integrated to field service management. So if I just work from the left to the right, one example would be the leveraging of drone technology. Now, drone technology has been around for a while, but it's really come into its own in terms of how easy it is today to deploy a drone, to fly it to a remote location, and once it gets there safely through a flight corridor that have been established in most countries today, once it's on site, equally to be able to control it and have visual inspections of machines or assets that are in the field before an engineer is sent to site. That can all be done by an integration into our field service management software. So an example might be an electrical company that, for example, a regular occurrence would be that storms would put power out in certain locations. Engineers are sent out to the field to physically look and inspect and find the fault on the network, and then to understand what type of fault and what the access would be, where they would access it from in terms of the field that they may have to travel across, etc. As opposed to sending a drone to site, which can travel in all kinds of weather. It is safe. If it crashes, nobody gets injured. But by the time an engineer is then deployed to site, we know exactly where the location is. We have a good visual inspection of the issues that are at stake, and the stock and the skills and the access can all be identified using the drone to guide us to where we need to be. Another example is, you've heard a lot about new business models coming to market, and we all know the value of Uber and Airbnb and all these new business models. But these types of business models are beginning to emerge in the utility sector as well, and particularly in field service management, where, again, in many situations where there are, the occasional job that might occur if you're trying to cover an entire country. So you may be, for example, in the UK, it might be a remote job that may come in every so often on an island in Scotland. And that today might require an engineer to be deployed to know what the issue might be and to go fix the issue. And most of those, if not all of those employees today, are on payroll and in full-time employment. Many businesses are beginning to realize the value of what's called the gig economy. And the gig economy is where we only pay for a job that's done, either through a contractor, which we can facilitate, or with individuals who are at home doing whatever other jobs that they might do. But when a job for us comes up, and it might be going and doing a meter reading, it could be fixing something remote, it could be doing a visual inspection, it could be any type of job. Once they're trained and they follow the health and safety procedures, which we would force them to do on the technology, they can be deployed when required. So in other words, you only pay the individual for a job that is done on site. And this can all be tracked, managed through payroll with real-time visibility of all the gig workers that are working for you, and drive huge efficiency in terms of cost and deploying people to the field. Another example is the Internet of Things. And I'm sure everybody's heard a lot about Internet of Things. There was a lot of noise about it for the last number of years. And now it's settled down to being a real technology that is now deployed in many, many different sectors today. But when you again integrate this into field service technologies, you can then talk to assets in the field. So with very little effort, I think the common example is oil tanks that are not empty, so you can schedule routes in order to replenish oil tanks or liquid assets that are in the field. But there's many different examples where machines can talk back. And today, more and more machines are intelligent. Most machines today have some computer intelligence on board. Once they have something on board that can talk back to a control center, we can then start to understand, okay, this machine may need a service. This machine has been running for X amount of time. It may need a reboot, a restart, or whatever the case may be. An example today that we work on and working on a project at the moment, a mobile operator trying to manage cell sites in the field. They're looking at how they would replenish diesel because it's quite remote, some of their cell sites, and they want to know, okay, the tank is nearly empty, send somebody and actually know how much diesel has been put into the tank and schedule the routes and the jobs accordingly. Another thing that has come to market now is virtual reality and augmented reality and also video calling. And again, these technologies have been around for a while, but now again, they really are coming into their own in terms of applicable in the field. So augmented reality, as an example, is where I can hold up my device, look at what I'm looking at in the field, and then augment it with some digital technology to put in front of it. So I could look at a circuit board, hold on my device, and then see all the different wires, get an explanation of what they're for, and also call in a video call to a colleague of mine back at base who may be a more higher skilled engineer to assist me through the job, so that I go to the site once, I fix once, and I come home, as opposed to going to site, realizing I don't have the tools, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the manuals, or whatever the case may be, coming back to the office, and then deploying the right skills and the right engineers again, which is a huge waste of assets and resources. Again, because of the mobile device, because of the connectivity, augmented reality has now become a reality, and again, it can be plugged into field service management. And just my last example then would be predictive analytics. So with all this information coming in from the field in real time, we're starting to accumulate a huge amount of data, and we're getting really good at understanding and analyzing this data. So for example, predictive analytics is where we can know based on past behaviors that a machine is going to fail. We know based on the volume of usage, based on the humidity, based on the heat in which it's operating, based on the different tasks it has performed, we can look back and say, okay, well, now we know that this machine is going to fail in next month based on its current volume of usage. So let's go and let's change parts, let's do a service, let's do whatever we need to do, or let's call our customer and predictively go to our customers and say, we're going to be out there next month, we're going to change part X, Y, and Z. So customer experience and customer service can be dramatically enhanced by leveraging some of these technologies. So that's just a quick overview of what's happening in the market today. There's lots and lots of examples of how technology can be applied to significant problems. What we do with our clients is we tend to sit with our clients and innovate together and say, what is the single most important issue that you're facing in the field today? What would you like to solve? And what will save you the most money or provide your customers with the best experience? And then we sit around designing a solution for our client and integrating it into field service management. And as you would have heard Alan say already, field service management and our software sits on top of your existing CRM or ERP. We're not trying to replace that. We're trying to give you a lot of efficiency and visibility and control in the field by using field service management. So listen, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to hand you back now to Paul for some questions and answers.
Okay, and thank you very much. That was very insightful. And I know there's a couple of people who are actually joining us today, and one in particular is Alex Warner, who is in the specialist field of health and safety. So in terms of that, just give us an example of how the BITA works in that regard. Alex is there, has got a company up in Manchester, Liverpool. How would you communicate with Alex, and what use would she and her company be to you? Well, would you answer that, Mick, for us?
Yeah, sure. I suppose with anybody who's looking after health and safety in a business, we in our section where we have the forms, and say particularly Alex would know what I'm talking about here, and risk assessment forms, SSPs. We can actually provide the evidence of compliance for any different crews. Say going like, for an example, let's say where our system is used is let's say we have a civils crew going out in the morning. They will do a risk assessment of the site. Now that in some cases we have had clients who insist on that risk assessment being assessed, if you like, by somebody more senior back in a head office. So we can ensure that the crews can go out, do a risk assessment of the site, with all the information will be geolocated. We have the associated photographs, and in some cases, what happens is if it's it's a particularly say sensitive site or whatever, some companies will look for an update during the day to make sure that the whole site is being maintained safely. And then you can also get midday photos. And then obviously, if a crew is finishing up at the end of a day, the assessment can be done again with associated photos to make sure that the site is left in a safe manner, and maybe even then that links into quality for ongoing health and safety, that the depth of the trench was correct, the reinstatement was correct. All those associated photos and data are available in a back office, either in real time or, as Alan said, if the signal is bad, all the work can be done, and then all the data uploaded when the crew is back in online. So I hope that partly answers the question. If Alan wants to step in there, please do that.
Yeah, so like just to follow on from what Mick said, the forms obviously is a main area of enforcing health and safety and compliance on all jobs. Another part of our system which aids in that is the certifications module, which allows our customers to record certifications or qualifications, for example, a safe pass or something that's an engineer requires in the field to enter a site. So we can trigger notifications if one is due to expire. Plus, if an engineer doesn't have a certification for a certain job type, we would not assign a job to that engineer. So we have some safeguards in there as well, along with the forms, skill sets, etc. So there are many ways to kind of control or monitor health and safety as well.
Okay, question from Dave Bell. Welcome, Dave. Does this integrate with many account systems, i.e. Xero, so that the invoices are automatically processed?
We currently integrate with many systems, SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, Ericsson. Yeah, we have our standard APIs that would integrate with the majority of ERPs and account systems. So it's just a matter of scoping it out, looking at what the Xero. I don't know the system myself, but look, it's a matter of just looking into that and see what's required there from the Xero side as well. But we have a lot of experience integrating with third-party systems.
Okay, and can you change the schedule halfway through the day if an emergency comes in?
You can indeed, yes. So we have a feature for emergency jobs as well. Would have tighter SLAs tied against them. So we would have a feature there that would manage that scenario.
Okay, does the software increase the first time fixed rate?
Yes, once all a configuration is set up correctly. So first of all, it's all down to the client and the user how they configure the forms, how they configure the actual job, the actual work stream. So we can, I suppose, make certain areas of the system mandatory. So we can guide the engineer through various parts of the form that need to be answered in a certain way. So regarding first time fixed rate, yeah, definitely we can improve that. It's just a matter of working out how we can and what data and forms we need to enforce on the engineer in the actual workflow.
Okay, and Dave Bell has another question. Can this collect the customer signature as well as the engineers?
We can collect multiple signatures, yes, indeed.
And also just on that, Paul, that is date and timestamp, the geolocation is there. So all the information necessary is there on the form, as well as any signature, as Alan said, both engineers and customer signature.
I suppose the beauty about the form designer is that the client can define their own form and can design themselves. So we provide full training on that. So there's a lot of features in the form designer that can be used.
I'll just add to that, with all the experience we have of optimizing operations with our various clients, we tend to bring a lot of advice to the table and recommend how to streamline the operational efficiencies around the workflows and compliance, so that it's done very effectively, efficiently, as well as being compliant.
Okay. And can the mobile app be branded with companies' logos?
Yes, we could definitely look at something like that. We have numerous logos on a back office system, but we could definitely look into something on that side. Yeah.
Okay, and finally, is the software available to integrate with other technology platforms via APIs, etc.?
Exactly. So yeah, as mentioned previously, we integrate with many different types of software: accounting, CRMs, ERPs. Logistical software,
data flows, stock management systems. Yeah, we also Salesforce. Yeah, as well.
Yeah, so we have a vast experience in the integration side as well.
And Johnny Walsh has a question of what is the typical client?
Okay, well, the typical client is in the utility sector with a probably 50 to 100 plus mobile workforce, either contractors or or utility companies themselves, but not like obviously field, any company basically with field service workers, you know, say that they need to manage, that are widely spread out geographically, whatever, and they're trying to get real-time paperless information back from those engineers or operatives, whatever.
Brilliant. Well, listen, guys, thank you very much for the information. We really enjoyed this webinar in terms of its informative nature. I, for one, can think of many groups of people now who we can start to actually connect you with in terms of the conversation. So again, thank you very much for the very well presented webinar. And thank you very much also, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see you again soon on the BITA platform. Good evening.
Thank you, Paul, and the team. I really, really appreciate the effort you put into getting this together. And thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.